Welcome to the Happier Life Project, the official podcast from the award-winning mental health and wellness app, My Possible Self. Hosted by broadcaster and journalist Gabby Sanderson.
Hello, I'm Gabby. Welcome. In today's episode, we're talking about something we all use every single day and couldn't live without: our water and the tiny invisible particles called microplastics that are now found in most of it. This conversation shines a light on the connection between what's happening in our environment and what's happening in our bodies and minds. Because when the water we drink and depend on is affected, so are we. To help us understand this better, I'm joined by Dr. Sherri Mason, who prefers to be known as Sam. Sam is a leading researcher whose work was amongst the first to reveal just how widespread microplastics are in our freshwater systems. Sam's findings have shaped legislation, informed global awareness, and changed the way we think about plastic pollution. On the show today, you will hear us explore what microplastics actually are and how they end up in our tap and bottled water, and what current research suggests about their impact on our physical health, including hormones, neurological functioning, and long-term well-being. And we also look at the emotional and mental health side, the stress of the environment uncertainty, the overwhelm many people feel when trying to make better, healthier choices, and how reconnecting with the environment can support our sense of calm, agency, and resilience. This isn't about panic, it's about clarity. Dr. Mason offers practical, realistic steps we can start taking to reduce our plastic exposure and protect our bodies and the planet. And Sam reminds us that small, consistent actions really do add up. And the good news is, there are many things we can do to reduce and even eliminate a lot of our microplastic consumption. And you're about to learn exactly what they are. So, ready to find a healthier, happier you? Let's get started.
This is important. So you have me for as long as you need me.
Well, we're recording, so let's do this. Welcome, Dr. Sherri A. Mason, aka Sam. I can call you Sam, right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. It's the Happier Life Project podcast. Absolutely thrilled to have you on talking about a really important subject matter. And I think as we get into it, people will see why I wanted to incorporate this into a podcast, which is, you know, about mental health and about well-being and about, you know, life and lifestyle and how it actually does weave in when people at first might think, water and microplastics, how's this going to apply? You'll find out, my friends.
Stay tuned.
Exactly. Well, Sam, I'd love to just kind of kick things off with your story. What first drew you to studying water and more specifically plastic pollution?
Yeah. I was actually an atmospheric chemist by training. My PhD was studying the influence of forest fires on the atmosphere. And what happened was I had an incredible opportunity to hop aboard a tall ship, the U.S. Brig Niagara, here in Erie, Pennsylvania, the United States, and to talk about atmospheric deposition into the Great Lakes. But while I was out on the vessel and just staring at the water, I was just, I couldn't sleep. I was just mesmerized and enthralled and thinking about everything I had seen, heard, and read about plastic pollution in the world's oceans. And I'm like, well, I live on a fresh body of water, the largest freshwater system in the entire planet. And how come I've never heard about plastic pollution here? And that's because nobody had studied it. And so I ended up taking a pretty large pivot in my career and decided decided that this would become my new area of research, and have been doing it for, going on 15 years. And it's fascinating. And there's just so much to know, so much that we still don't know. It's just really intriguing, which as a scientist, that's what you're looking for, things that you can really dig your teeth into and learn so much about. And, for this podcast, I think it's important to note kind of how it intersects so much with people and society, and our physical and mental well-being, as we'll talk about more.
Yeah, absolutely. And the planet's well-being as well. Not forgetting that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had, from what I could see from your stuff online, a really fascinating career. NASA Earth System Science Scholar, helping shape US law. What was the thing with Barack Obama? I've got some of my notes somewhere.
Oh, he signed the Microbeads-Free Water Act in 2015. No big deal. I wasn't invited. That's all right. He's actually going to be here in Erie, Pennsylvania in a couple weeks. And I just thought I'd mention that to him, he could have invited me back then, but it's good to meet you now.
Absolutely. But I mean, pun intended, did you ever think it would ripple this far?
No, I mean, I've always been interested in science and the public interest, and doing things that would really kind of influence. Because to me, it's always about like, how do we make ourselves better, right? How, we do these things with unknowing, unintentional consequences, and how, as we become aware of these things, can we change society for the better? And so that was kind of always my interest. I became fascinated with chemistry when I was 10 years old and learning about acid rain. That was like my initial kind of introduction to science. And so it was always about like, how do we correct these mistakes that we've made as a species to make our lives better, to make the planet better, because we are all interconnected, right? And so it's not like if we do something to the planet, it doesn't affect us, and vice versa. As we do things that are bad for us, it affects the planet. I think sometimes we have lost that understanding of that interconnection that we have with each other, with the planet, and the fact that it is all one and the same. I think our skin really makes us think that like somehow we're separated from the external environment, and we're not, right? What happens out there?
No, it's because I'm so completely with you. And it's, I mean, could go down a whole different direction of the podcast here, but even things like what we've looked at a few times now, like, loneliness and isolation and stuff, is because we're disconnected and we're not supposed to be. And that's from each other, from nature.
Yes. 100%.
But back to today's theme, water and microplastics, which is, of course, all related. So this was while you were a professor of chemistry at SUNY Fredonia, right?
Yeah. I'm in my third institutional home. Yep.
Okay. So your research group was among the first to study the prevalence and impact of plastic pollution within freshwater ecosystems. So let's kind of like break this down for people who have probably consumed a lot of noise about plastic now, and a bit of fear mongering, and maybe there is some truth in it. But like, what did you discover? Because, I mean, I looked at recent statistics saying, for example, up to 83% of tap water worldwide has found...
that was our study.
Oh, is it? There you go. I looked at your study. 83% of so I'm repeating what you already know. Okay. Well, for our listeners, 83% of tap water worldwide has been found to contain microplastics. So can you like sort of get us into where we're at with all of this, please?
Yeah. I mean, when I started doing my research in the Great Lakes of the United States, so there are 5 Great Lakes that are interconnected, forming the largest freshwater ecosystem in the world, and it happens to be my backyard. So it's a perfect kind of laboratory. But when we started that work, this plastic pollution was really considered an oceans issue. And very few people, I mean, there was nothing happening within freshwater ecosystems. There was very little happening. There was a little bit happening with regard to sea life and looking at shrimp and oysters, but there was nothing happening with regard to, the reality is, right, like when it comes to life, we need fresh water, right? When we look for life on other planets, we look for fresh water because to our knowledge, life does not exist without fresh water. And so, we were one of the first to look at fresh water for plastic pollution. And what we found was, it was fascinating, but I really thought we'd be finding big plastic items, but 98% of what we pull out of the Great Lakes are microplastics. So these little pieces of plastics that are smaller than 5 millimeters, larger than 1 micron. So it's this pretty big size range, actually. It goes from a grain of rice down to 1/100th the width of a human hair. It's a pretty big size range. So some microplastics you can see, but most of them are really small. And then this just spiraled where then we started looking in rivers, we looked in wastewater treatment plants, we looked in fish, we looked in consumer products like tap water and bottled water. And, it kind of blew up where it took this subject, this research area, and what we have realized is that it does not matter where we look, we find microplastics. And it's because plastic as a material is so unique, it does not biodegrade because it is completely synthetic. It's made from fossil fuels. It doesn't biodegrade. It breaks into ever smaller pieces, but it doesn't go away. And the consequence of that is that it has infected the entire planet from the bottom of the Marianas Trench to the top of mountains, and everything in between. It's in our food, it's in our water, and it's in our bodies, and we know this very well now.
And so with that information, what is it doing to our bodies? Do we need to be concerned?
Yeah, we do need to be concerned. We know more about the chemicals that are in and on plastics than we know about the plastics themselves, but more research is being done with regard to the plastics themselves. And both sides of that sword are cutting us. They're both affecting us. So, the chemicals are known to be endocrine disruptors. That means that they can affect, basically any function of an organism, from sleep to obesity to the ability to procreate. All of those are being affected by the chemicals. And then the plastics themselves are being associated with neurological disorders like Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's, as well as affecting our gut health and leading to some increases in digestive diseases that we're seeing. So it's really kind of affecting across the board our ability to survive as a species. And all of that sounds very doom and gloom. So let's talk about what can we do?
What can we do? Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that. Because I also want to kind of look at, and I'm just saying it out loud now so I don't forget it, because I can tend to just riff off what you say and then forget some of my notes. But what can we do about drinking water? Do we, the filter systems and all that? And, and like we know with wellness, there's a lot of money that can be made. And so it's what are the kind of maybe more simple things that we can do? But then there's also the fact that a lot of the products include things we eat, things we drink, things we put on our skin, they come from plastic bottles. So I guess I want to make sure that I sort of cover both of those areas.
Yeah.
When it comes to, let's go with drinking water, and obviously it depends on where in the world you live.
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay to just drink tap water, or do you think we need to filter it?
Honestly, I with regard to tap water, especially, in the UK, United States, and in places where, there's well-established water infrastructure, I think it's perfectly safe to drink tap water. While we do find microplastics within tap water, as you mentioned, the 83%, the levels that we're seeing in tap water are very, very small, especially relative to something like bottled water. So the number one way to reduce your intake of plastics into your body is to not drink bottled water. So our study, we did the first study on bottled water. We found an average of 325 microplastics within bottled water. And then about 2 years ago, researchers at Columbia University looked at nanoplastics. So these are things that are even smaller than microplastics. So they're more easily moved throughout the body. And they found an average of 240,000 nanoplastics. So, I mean, this is hundreds of thousands of particles that you're ingesting with every bottle of water that you're drinking. And what we see in tap water is an average of 5 in tap water.
This podcast is sponsored by Evian. I'm kidding. My God. I mean, when you were saying that, I was thinking about how many plastic bottles of water I must have consumed in my life. I mean, sometimes there's no alternative. I think about when you're traveling on a train or on a plane, it's very rare that you can buy, a glass bottle of water. It's usually plastic.
It is usually plastic. I mean, so I bring my reusable, and you have to dump it before you go through security, and then you fill it up after, so I always try and keep something with me. But I've also traveled to places in the world where it's not safe to drink their tap water, and that's just the realities. And so in that case, my husband and I are buying like the biggest bottle of water that we can, and then we're like divvying it out, like, okay, I get my half a milliliter now, trying to make it last, as long as possible. So, you do the best you can. I think that's one thing that's really important for people to realize. I study this and I am not completely plastic free. It's impossible. I have plastic headphones on. I'm sitting at a plastic computer. I drove to work today in a plastic car. So there are things that you can control and things that you can do, and there are things that are outside of your control, right? And so, you do the best you can with the means that you have. But in the situation where you have the ability to fill up something and take it with you and not buy bottled water, that's the best thing to do.
Let's make sure that really lands with people. It is better to bring your own and fill it up from a tap than spend X amount of money buying bottled water, where you think that's the healthier option. You think, it's filtered, it doesn't have X, Y, and Z, but actually it might be, but it's full of plastic.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's much less regulated. Bottled water, I mean, they've convinced us through advertising campaigns that it's safer, but that's because they have lots of money and can pay Jennifer Aniston to talk about smart water, and and they could pay me to talk about tap water, but I don't think I'm going to have quite the impact that Kim Kardashian or somebody has, and this is just, it's the way the business works, right? Nobody wants to pay for water. Nobody wants to pay more to have tap water at their house. And as a consequence, they don't have the advertising budgets that bottled water companies have. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business at this point.
Right.
And so they've done because of that kind of money, they've done a good job of advertising and convincing us that it's cleaner and better and safer. And none of those things are true. It's much less regulated.
Wow. So
it's basically unregulated, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering, if boiling the water, if you're making yourself a cup of tea, does that get rid of some of these microplastics?
Yeah, I read that study too. So there is a study. It was understandably, it came out of Asia, and I mean this in the nicest way. They drink a lot of tea, so they were curious, and that makes a lot of sense. I love tea as well. And so that was the, headline was that if you boil water, it reduces. And so what happens is it makes the plastics come together and sink to the bottom. So does it pull it out of the water? Yes. Are you going to drink what's at the bottom of your cup? Probably. I mean, so I think thinking of that as a way to clean your water is a little misleading for most people.
Think it though, don't we? We think when we boil vegetables even or whatever in a pan, that they're sort of being cleaned while they're being cooked.
It's maybe taking stuff off of the vegetables and into the water, and then it depends upon what you do with the water. If that water is going down the drain, it's still going through a wastewater treatment plant where they don't remove microplastics completely. They're actually fairly effective at removing some microplastics. And this gets into the interconnection. So when they remove them in a wastewater treatment plant, it goes into the sludge, which is applied to farmland. And then those microplastics end up in the fruits and the vegetables.
Oh my God.
You've just gone full circle. And then they're back on your dinner table. We have to, and so the real solutions to this are recognizing that interconnection. And the only way to truly get rid of these things is to stop making them, right? We need to reduce our usage of plastic, especially like what I call stupid plastic, right? I think that there are uses for plastic that make sense when it's long-lived, like our cars are much more fuel efficient because of the plastics that are in them. And I think that bioplastics are probably the way that we kind of move away from the toxic plastics that we have into something that's more human and environmentally safe. It's a future plan. But right now, day one, what can individuals do? Well, you focus on what I call the stupid plastics, those single-use disposable plastics that kind of permeate our lives. And those are the main way that we are getting microplastics into ourselves and through us to our children as well.
Wow. And God, I think about how much food comes in plastics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we just really need to be mindful of, even like I think about going to the shops to buy groceries and you take a plastic bag to put your broccoli in or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I bring reusable bags for my fruits and vegetables. A lot of times I even just put it in my cart without a bag at all. And I mean, different people have different perspectives on how clean that is. That's fine. I have tons of reusable bags that I put like my broccoli in and take that home so that I'm trying to reduce, because there's this whole, like I said, in the last 15 years, like the field has really blown up. The one kind of interesting segment of the study of plastic pollution is there's this whole new field where they're studying these plastic containers and how they constantly shed. So I like to compare it to skin and how like our skin feels so smooth and it's always there. And so it seems so constant, except that we all know that we're constantly shedding skin cells, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing is true for any plastic product. It's constantly shedding little microplastics. So just having something wrapped in plastic means that there will be plastic within that product. So that includes your shampoo and your lotions, as well as, your takeout Chinese food, if it's packaged in plastic, all of it will have your cheese, rice, whatever it is, it's going to end up having some plastic in it as a consequence.
Right. What about then just going back to water from the tap? Is there any point getting like a water filter system, whether that's like I said, a system, or for example, I have the jug with the every month you change the kind of filter things. Yeah.
Yeah. And how much plastic is involved in that?
Well, I made sure that the jug is glass. So it's a glass jug.
The filter itself, probably plastic. It usually is, like the casing.
Damn it.
You're not alone. I mean, this is the thing. This is how it's just kind of everywhere. Look, I think filtering water is perfectly fine. I think it's good for removing I think it's more important with regard to moving other things, other chemicals that are in our water than it is for plastic. I think with regard to plastic that it has a tendency to be a delay mechanism. So maybe the first gallon of water that you push through, it helps to reduce plastic. But that basically what happens is the plastic gets caught in the filter. And then as you put more water through, that plastic goes through the filter. It gets pushed through the filter. In addition to the fact that the very first time that you're using that filter, honestly, there's a lot of, people don't think about this because they never see plastic being made. But when plastic is made, there's lots of hairs and little shards that hang off of it. So when you're first using that, a lot of that first gallon that you're using, a lot of those shards are coming off into the water that you're then going to drink. So
the one I use, it says to do it twice, let it run through twice, and then discard the water, and then the third time you're okay. Probably for that reason, I suppose. But
maybe. I don't think they were thinking about that at the time that they
Okay.
started kind of marketing those. This was kind of before it became, but I mean, it probably is helpful with regard to those little microfibers that would be kind of coming off of those. It's really interesting when I first started in this and people would ask me about filtering, and I would say, well, I think probably reverse osmosis is our best bet with regard to filtering. And then that same Columbia study that I made reference to earlier, looking at bottled water, they did some investigation and they found actually that the reverse osmosis filters of their water was contaminating the water. So I didn't realize this, but reverse osmosis filters use plastic.
Right.
And so as the water is getting pushed through the reverse osmosis filter, it was releasing nanoplastics into the water. I like to say that we can't filter ourselves out of this problem. If filtering makes you feel better for other reasons, by all means. At the same time, if you can't afford a filter, I don't think it's important to run out and buy one.
Okay. Well, then, have you, just because we're looking at this through the lens of mental health and wellness, is there any correlation between water and microplastics and mental health, do you think, in a roundabout way?
Yeah, well, I was, saying like it's affecting our brains, right? The studies that are kind of linking plastics to neurological disorders, for sure. In addition to the fact that it influences our chemistry, right? And a lot of mental health is influenced by our different, kind of chemistries, right? And the levels of certain chemicals within our body, and it's definitely affecting that. So yes, I mean, I think that there's less research with regard to that than there are other aspects, because I think people are kind of more intrigued on, is it causing cancer? Is it causing dementia? Is it causing digestive disease? Is it affecting our ability to procreate? Things like that. But I have little doubt that there's probably some influence on our mental health, and both in terms of within our own bodies, but then just the news, right? And the kind of feeling like, oh my God, this problem, it's like climate change. These problems feel so big, and it makes you feel so small and so powerless that it can really affect your ability to kind of make it through the day. I think this is especially true for kind of people and lower income socioeconomic classes, because they are the ones that tend to be most exposed to it. They tend to live next to the facilities. They tend to live in places, at least in the United States, we call them food swamps. So there's no grocery stores, but there's a lot of convenience stores. There's a lot of fast food. And all of those structures exist through single-use plastics, right? That's how they package their products. And if you know mentally that like plastics are bad, but the only way you can get food if is that it's wrapped in plastic, then how do you kind of makes you feel like you can't leave your house, you can't eat, you can't function.
So what's the answer there then? To just chill out, or drink tap water?
Just drink tap. No, I mean, I think to some extent it is to chill out. I think it's a little bit of like, okay, what is in your control and what is not? And you do the best you can with the means that you have. So there are options to get your personal care products and your food, a lot of your food, not all of your food, but a lot of your food plastic free, and to get your laundry detergent and stuff, to move things from a grocery store to your house. There are ways to do this without plastic, or with a lot less plastic. And all of those things, the smallest thing you do, just when you go out to eat, saying, I don't want a straw, that makes a difference. Just that one little act. There are 8 billion people on the planet. If 8 billion people say, I don't want a straw, that's 8 billion less straws in a day. It's like, you have to think about how these actions compound. And so rather than feeling powerless, I want people to feel powerful. Every action that you're taking makes a difference. When I started this 15 years ago, you could not, at least in this United States, you could not buy peanut butter in anything but plastic.
Yeah.
And now half of the aisle is glass.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that happen? Did all of a sudden the peanut butter companies, say, oh, we want to save the planet? No, people weren't buying their products. And as a consequence, they were like, oh, we're going to pivot. We're going to make this available so that we're bringing those people who are refusing, right? And same with yogurt. You can actually find some brands of yogurt now, again, in the United States, in glass. I've been on a number of podcasts where I've called out the yogurt industry because it's not only that it's packaged in plastic, but it's packaged hot in plastic. So it's being deposited into that plastic container when it's hot, and that's adding to the plastic and chemical loading that's within that yogurt. And I was like, I've stopped buying yogurt because I can't buy it in glass. Just every little thing that you're able to do, it has an impact. It affects the system that is the plastics industry. And so finding those places where you can make a change in your life, and that's better for you, but it also affects the system, right? And realizing that, it's these little actions that lead to big change.
Oh, amazing stuff, Sam. Thank you so much. So for people that have heard this and they're inspired, I do want to point to your website because you have got some resources there where you suggest where there was one in particular where I started going down a bit of a rabbit hole looking at all the great products that aren't packaged in plastic. And it's from your bars of soap to your cleaning products and whatnot. This is www.sherrimason.com.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll put the links on the episode show notes. Do you want us to also point to anywhere else where people can go and learn more?
Some of my favorite organizations beyond plastics, the Plastic Pollution Coalition and Five Gyres are good places if you want to learn more about this topic, about policies, things that you can do. Those are some great kind of places to look for to get some information about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we'll add the links again to the episode show notes. I can't let you go now until we do the Happier Life Project's last 5 in 5. So these are kind of like quick fire, the same 5 questions that I ask every guest to conclude the episode.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
When and where are you at your happiest?
Ooh, outside in the water. Anytime I'm in water, I'm happy.
Without the plastics.
Without the plastic, preferably without plastics.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do that nourishes your mental health?
Swim. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
What piece of advice do you now know that you wished somebody would have told you earlier that would have made you a happier person?
Worry less. The things that we tend to worry about aren't the things that happen, and the things that happen aren't things that we thought to worry about. So worry less, be in the present, hug anybody, hug a tree. Oh my God. If you've never hugged a tree, seriously, it sounds so silly, but it feels so good. You feel this exchange of energy between you and the tree. And, but also hug living things too, dogs, cats, humans.
Okay. Final question. What's one small but impactful first step we can take in our own lives when it comes to water and microplastics that can support both our health and our mission to living a happier life?
Don't drink bottled water.
Boom.
Boom. That's it. And from there, I like to say, I've made it into a game. And so then I go, okay, what's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? And they're usually simple things. I don't use plastic bags when I go to the grocery store. And then it became an obsession, right? So my toothpaste is actually powder and it comes in cardboard, and my deodorant comes in cardboard, and all of that can be composted right in my backyard compost pile. And so it became a game for me, okay, what's the next thing I can do? The next product that is about to run out, and I can change it to something that's plastic free. And just doing it one step at a time instead of looking at your house and going, I have to throw everything out and start from zero. That's overwhelming.
I have to live in a cave now.
Don't live in a cave. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, really. Yeah, it's been great to meet you and to learn about this stuff. So educational.
Thank you so much for having me. I love having an opportunity to share this to a wider audience and have good conversations with wonderful people, especially wonderful people from other places. So this is great. Thank you.
Hello friends, it's Gabby back with you. If you are suffering with your mental health, there is a crisis button on the My Possible Self app, which will signpost you to the correct information for immediate expert advice. Those of you who are listening on one of the podcast platforms, the My Possible Self app is completely free to download. You can access all of the content, so you don't need to worry about it costing you anything. If you found this episode helpful, please do subscribe and leave a review and share it with your friends. And to find and follow us on social media, we are most active on Instagram, and you can find us at My Possible Self. And I've been at Radio Gabby. Until the next one, do take care. Bye for now.